The moon is becoming the next South China Sea. That sounds theatrical. It is not. It is geography. The South China Sea matters because rocks, reefs, trade routes, legal ambiguity, and military reach all sit on top of each other. The moon's south pole has the same basic structure: scarce ground, useful resources, unsettled law, competing blocks, bad maps, expensive logistics. Everyone says the mission is peaceful. Everyone also brought a flag. The breach is simple. The first power that builds durable infrastructure near the lunar South Pole will shape the rules before the rules fully exist. The moon is the high ground. The South Pole is the high ground, with water under the floorboards. NASA is targeting the lunar South Pole because that region may contain water ice inside permanently shadowed craters. Water changes the military and commercial equation. It can support crews. It can be split into oxygen and hydrogen. It can reduce the cost of deeper space operations. NASA's own lunar science material treats polar ice as one of the central reasons Artemis is going south. That creates the first pressure point. The best lunar terrain is rare. The South Pole is strange country. The sun stays low. Shadows stretch across crater rims like black wire. Some ridges receive long periods of sunlight. Some crater floors stay cold and dark for ages. That means power and water sit near each other, but not everywhere. The useful locations are clustered around rims, ridges, and shadowed basins. NASA has already identified potential Artemis landing regions near the South Pole, including areas around Shackleton, de Gerlache, Nobile, Faustini, and Malapert. These names sound like sleepy astronomy. They are future points on a strategic map. The first vector is resource access. The old Apollo moon was a proving ground. The new moon is a supply depot. Apollo planted flags, collected rocks, and left. Artemis is trying to build repeatable operations. China is doing the same through its Chang'e program and the International Lunar Research Station. That shift matters. A place visited once remains symbolic. A place serviced again and again becomes infrastructure. China's Chang'e 7 mission is planned for the second half of 2026. Its job is to study the lunar South Pole with special attention to water ice. Chang'e 8 is expected to follow later as part of the path toward a lunar research station. China has also placed relay infrastructure into the lunar system. Queiqiao 2 was launched to support far side and South Pole missions, including Chang'e 6, Chang'e 7, and Chang'e 8. That is not a vanity move. Relay satellites are the lighthouses of cislunar space. Without them, rovers and landers become expensive paperweights with antennas. The second vector is coalition law. The United States is not going to the moon alone. It is building a club before the settlement begins. The Artemis Accords now have 66 signatories, with Ireland becoming the 66th on May 4, 2026. NASA frames the accords as shared principles for safe and responsible exploration. That is the diplomatic version. The strategic version is colder. The United States is setting expectations before China can set different ones. Interoperability, transparency, emergency assistance, registration, data sharing, and deconfliction all sound gentle. In practice, they create habits. Habits become standards. Standards become power. China and Russia have their own track through the International Lunar Research Station. Roscosmos and CNSA have been tied together on lunar station planning, with Russia discussing a segment and power infrastructure under that project. This is block formation in slow motion. One block speaks the language of Artemis. The other speaks the language of ILRS. Both claim peaceful intent. Both are building facts on the ground, or rather, facts on the regolith. The third vector is legal ambiguity. The Outer Space Treaty bars national appropriation of the moon by sovereignty, occupation, or similar means. That sounds clear until someone lands equipment beside a crater rim and declares a safety zone. They are not claiming territory, they say. They are preventing harmful interference. This is where the South China Sea analogy starts to bite. No one needs to announce an empire to create control. A landing pad, a power cable, a comms mast, a rover route, A propellant plant and a safety buffer can produce a practical exclusion zone. The legal label may stay polite. The operating reality gets sharper. The Artemis Accords include safety zones to reduce harmful interference, but the size, duration, and meaning of those zones remain contested. Recent discussions among Accords nations show that emergency response and harmful interference are still unresolved problems. That is the diplomatic trap. If safety zones are too small, they fail to protect crews and machines. If they are too large, they start to look like land claims wearing a nice blazer. If they last too long, they become property by habit. If they change too often, they become chaos with better paperwork. The fourth vector is military value. Every lunar base will be called civilian. Some will even be mostly civilian. That does not erase military value. A South Pole site can host communications equipment. It can support tracking. It can provide logistics for cislunar operations. It can test power systems. It can build experience in remote construction, autonomous repair, and deep space command. That knowledge feeds defense planning, even when the mission patch has a dove on it. The military value is not the image of soldiers with rifles bouncing across the moon. That is cartoon warfare. The real value is positioning, access, sensing, timing, communications, and operational experience. Orbit is a supply chain. The moon is the mountain pass above it. A state that knows how to move between Earth orbit, and the lunar surface gains more than prestige. It gains cislunar competence. That competence matters for surveillance, deterrence, and crisis response. It also matters for denying an adversary easy assumptions. The fifth vector is infrastructure tempo. America has an unmatched commercial launch sector. SpaceX altered the launch market by making cadence part of strategy. Blue Origin, other contractors, and international partners now sit inside the broader Artemis machinery. Yet Artemis still carries the weight of government scheduling, procurement, and technical risk. China moves differently. It uses state direction, long program lines, and patient industrial buildup. Its model lacks some American flexibility. It also avoids many American committee rituals, those sacred ceremonies where a meeting goes in alive and comes out as a PDF. This creates a race between two operating cultures. The American model can surge through private industry. The Chinese model can concentrate state purpose. The winner may be the side that connects launch, landing, relay, surface power, extraction, and crew operations into one repeatable chain. Repeatability is the prize. A single landing is a headline. A landing cadence is power. The sixth vector is the water myth. Water ice is real enough to matter, but uncertain enough to cause friction. The moon is not hiding a convenient lake under a welcome mat. Ice may be patchy. It may be mixed with regolith. It may be hard to mine. Some deposits may be scientifically precious and operationally awkward. This uncertainty increases the chance of conflict. If water is abundant and easy to access, the pressure spreads. If water is rare and concentrated, the pressure tightens. Scarcity turns geography into politics. Politics turns machinery into boundary markers. The same applies to sunlight. Power-rich ridges near ice-bearing shadows could become some of the most valuable terrain beyond Earth. A solar array on the right ridge may matter more than a flag on a plane. The flag inspires. The power line runs the base. The seventh vector is private power. Companies will not wait for perfect law. They will chase contracts, data, payload delivery, mining rights, communications coverage, and first-mover advantage. Governments will encourage them because private firms create plausible deniability and speed. That is how modern empire often works. The company arrives with equipment. The state arrives with protection. The lawyer arrives last and declares it all very complicated. Private lunar operations could build the first practical norms. Landing fees, comms access, navigation services, payload hosting, surface mobility, power leasing, and resource processing may all begin as commercial services. Once those services exist, states will defend them as national interests. The moon will not need borders to have zones of control. The eighth vector is crisis instability. The South Pole will be crowded by lunar standards. Crowded does not mean Manhattan. It means two landers, a rover, and a comms relay operating close enough that a mistake looks hostile. Dust can damage systems. Exhaust can disturb nearby equipment. Navigation errors can intrude on another mission's work zone. A rover may approach a site during a tense political moment. A relay satellite may fail at the worst time. An adversary may blame interference. The physics will be hard. The diplomacy will be worse. On Earth, ships can turn around. On the Moon, every maneuver is expensive. Every rescue is slow. Every failure becomes an accusation waiting for a podium. The horizon is clear. Over the next decade, the Moon will shift from symbol to operating theater. The first phase will be robotic. The second will be crewed. The third will be logistical. The fourth will be political. The United States will try to turn Artemis into the default rulebook. China will try to prove that it can build a rival route. Middle powers will join the system that gives them access, contracts, and status. Private firms will turn legal gray zones into business models. The South Pole will become a test case for whether space law can survive contact with machinery. No one will declare a lunar war. That is not how this begins. It begins with landing zones, then safety zones, then power zones, then relay networks, then resource claims that insist they are not claims. Every step will sound reasonable. Every step will narrow the choices of whoever arrives next. The Moon is becoming the next South China Sea because great powers rarely fight first over land. They fight over access. They fight over maps. They fight over rules written before the other side arrives. And somewhere near Shackleton Crater, in a place colder than any battlefield on Earth, the first border may be drawn by a solar panel.